Democratic Alliance wants the minister in the presidency responsible for state security, Kingsley to address South Africans about the possible terrorist attack warning in Johannesburg. The alert was issued by the U.S. Embassy yesterday. It warned of a potential terror attack in the Sandton area this weekend. The DA has criticized the government's response, calling it indifferent and dismissive. The opposition party has also brought up the failures of state security and intelligence during last year's July riots. Now, the South African government has issued a statement that assures the citizens that more information will be provided if there's a threat to their lives. Let's discuss this matter further now. I'm joined in studio by Dr. Kingsley Makhubela. He's a director at RiskRecon. Dr. Makhubela, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
This afternoon. Should we be worried as South African citizens about this advisory? First thought that popped in my mind yesterday when I saw it, I said, but why is the South African government quiet about something like this happening in the Sandton area, which is the richest square mile or contains the richest square mile on the African continent and is a hub of business and finance. But they have said nothing, but the Americans are now telling their own citizens, don't go to Sandton from Friday to Sunday.
But then there's element of truth in terms of what the Americans are saying. Remember, the Americans have a capability to do analysis of this kind of conflicts. They have about 18 intelligence community bodies within the United States. And they have a better system of analysis and collecting of intelligence, eavesdropping, and so on. But going by the history of how the Americans are issuing alerts, we have to be concerned. They've done so in Kenya in the past, in Uganda. They've done so even in the United Kingdom in the past, and some of these attacks have happened.
So we can't take this sort of saying, oh, it's just Americans, our government is saying nothing about it, we should be okay, we should take it seriously.
We should take it serious. If you see how Americans do their intelligence analysis and releasing of reports, they have what they call a committee of deputies that consist of different heads of intelligence agencies in Washington. And they are convened always by the National Security Council. That committee of deputies reports to the committee of the principals, that includes the president. On a daily basis, they provide some level of feeding in intelligence. So what they have released now has been sanctioned at the highest level, has been analyzed, details have been given. It's not a thumbs up. There are areas, this is something that we really need to be concerned about.
Yeah, but when you read the advisory, it's like so vague because it says it does not know the timing, does not even know the target, but this is the period with which their intelligence tells them there could be an attack in the Sandton area. Whether it's going to be a gathering or an event, but there are a couple of events we understand that have been planned in Sandton for this weekend. But I mean, Sandton, at the best of weekends, is a busy area.
But then if you look at the details of the statement issued out by the U.S., they are also trying to protect their sources. They won't be able to give details about how the intelligence was gathered. And I think as South Africa, we're going to see some serious challenges moving forward in terms of intelligence sharing. What was going on during the Zondo Commission, where detailed intelligence was discussed in the public, it's going to affect countries that interact with us and the level of intelligence that they can disclose to us, also protecting their sources. So we are in uncharted territory, but I think we need to take this information very seriously.
Should the American embassy have been the one to issue the alert about a very important part of Johannesburg in the hub of the economy being Gauteng? I'm talking about Sandton in this case. Or do you think they have informed the South African authorities before and then they went ahead in their own interest, so to speak, because they are addressing themselves to their citizens?
Well, the Americans have a legislative requirement that where they collect this kind of information, remember this information goes through what they call intelligence cycle: collection, analysis, evaluation, and dissemination of intelligence. Once they have done that, they are required to issue out this information in terms of the alerts. They have the amber, they have green, they have red. But is there legal framework since 9/11 to issue out information and warn Americans about possible terror?
So they were duty bound in this case.
They're duty bound to do that.
So while we don't know where they got the information from and we don't know the details, it is pretty straightforward, in your view, that this would be based on some intel that is, for them, justifiable in terms of warning everybody around Central.
Absolutely. This kind of intelligence information definitely went through about 18 intelligence agencies
before
within the US.
Public, yeah.
Analyze, evaluate, look at the authenticity of the intelligence before they issue out to the public.
What about our South African government? What was the position? We saw the statement that they note this and this. Now the opposition party, the DA, is saying, government, please, we need more. So how do we become reassured that we are safe this weekend in the Sentinel area? And the Sentinel area is pretty big.
Absolutely. It's a host of our financial institutions. And there are major events that are scheduled for this week. Not only the Sandton area, the greater Johannesburg area. We're going to have the Gay Pride that is taking place this weekend. You have the Derby that is taking place. It attracts huge crowds. Also, you have the coronation of the King in Durban.
So when you look at this, you can't just look at it in a narrow way.
No.
You need to look at everything.
Very broadly.
Very broadly.
Where there are huge gathering. Because the intelligence information usually, it's not very specific and details. It requires a detailed analysis. We don't know how they picked up the information. They may have picked up through eavesdropping and so on.
But they would have shared with the South African authorities.
They would have definitely shared with the South African.
This is really where we think it could and stuff.
There's a good relation between
So now
us
it's up to the South African security establishment to make sure that if the intelligence they have received is pointing to certain hotspots or likely hotspots, so to speak, they need to be protecting us.
Without causing any panic to the public, I think we need to develop a system of reacting to terror attack.
As a country?
As a country. It's going to happen. It may not be today, but I think we are a
It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when, because we live in that kind of world today.
Absolutely. You look at what the U.S. Treasury issued out sometimes this year. They issued out a detailed report about the funding of terrorist activities that is happening through South Africa. So there's a channel of resources that goes on here. And there have been a lot of people who are staying their sleeper cells in this country. So we really need to be very concerned and take appropriate action. If I was in government, I would take certain steps to protect the citizens, given this major event, not only during the course of this weekend, but move beyond that and set up a system in place to try to protect citizens in the event of any attack.
So the current statement, in your view, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I want to get your insight that we note this. That has come from Mondli Kungubele's department. We've noted this American embassy thing. That's not good enough.
You know, I was a bit disappointed by the statement by the minister when he said, well, we haven't seen any evidence. In terror attack, the only evidence you'd have is counting bodies.
It's when it happens.
Yeah. So what he should have said is that we take a note of this and we take appropriate measures to protect our people. We needed a reassuring message.
Now, going forward, then, how do we, I mean, if you say Americans have found that there's money flows through South Africa, from South Africa, to terror organizations, terrorist organizations, South Africa is in a pretty much of a challenging position if we don't do much about it.
We are. You know, the extremists, they have a very good concept. It's called al-wala wal-bara.
The Islamic. Yeah? What does it mean?
It means to love and to hate. They hate anything they do not agree with. This extremists, not the Thai Islamic.
The extremists, yes.
The extremists. Yeah. Whatever they hate, they go after it. And I think if you see activities like Gay Pride, they would hate those kind of issues because they think these are issues that should not happen. They would hate certain interaction that we are having with the West and so on.
So now we are seated here. We don't know where the possible target is. And as you said, we shouldn't be panicking. We should not be paranoid. We should be vigilant and be aware. We should be aware that there is this possibility and stuff. And what the Americans have issued is not just fake or just because they woke up one day, they wanted to scare us in Johannesburg.
You see, there's a credibility in terms of the U.S. intelligence services that they can't issue out an alert they don't have any information about. The information, it must be concrete. And I think we should take steps and we should improve our relations in terms of sharing the details of intelligence. Of course, the details it's not going to be shared with the public. But what we expect to see, I mean, I drove past Sandton now. I expect to see some activity, improved security around the area. Those are things that are reassuring to citizens, even to business that is operating there. We don't need to abandon the whole of Sandton, but we need to ensure that there's visible policing, visible surveillance that is taking place around the area.
Okay, Dr. Makhubela, you're making some interesting points there. Before I ask you the last question, on our screens there, we have live visuals currently, showing former ESCOM executive Matsela Koko and others who are in court for corruption. And that's Matsela Koko and a number of other people who are appearing in court in Middleburg. We'll go there live as soon as I'm done with you. Here's my last question before you go. We're having talks, peace talks for Ethiopia and Tigray happening in Pretoria. What's the significance of that?
But then, you know, it would have been good for this discussion, in my own view, to take place within the IGAD area. We are too far from the conflict. So you may get this conflict being prolonged. It becomes too expensive to transport disputants and so on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry to cut you in there. We need to go live to that court case now that is happening in Middleburg. It's the